another question.
Oh, well, perhaps if he's too old to be able to answer questions that are asked of him, he shouldn't be the monarch.
Well, I think
isn't that the point of the debate?
Well, why don't you go to all the charities and say, why do you shouldn't be inviting the Duke of Edinburgh anymore? You know, as I said, these people do not turn up on people's doorsteps saying, "Can I cut a ribbon for you? I've got nothing to do today." They have a 5 or 6 year waiting list, and they keep, and even the minor lords as well. I mean, even people like Princess Alexandra, who some of you might not even have heard of, has a full diary of engagements because they are invited by people. And I don't think you should criticise people for inviting these people to come.
Well, you should have heard of Princess Alexandra because you were paying for her. Scott mentioned the 14,874 engagements in 30 years.
Or 20 years possibly.
Okay, whatever.
Let's
put that into context. What do we mean by engagement? Well, the Royal website is quite open on this. The Queen can quite easily go through 5 or 6 engagements in a day. She did so last summer in Manchester here. Having dinner with the town hall was one engagement, opening a hospital in the morning, going off to the GMEX, what was the GMEX, can't remember what it's been renamed, another engagement there. So basically, don't think in terms of engagements, most of these don't last more than an hour, so think of hours, and then divide it by the time. Those hundreds of engagements a year, converted to hours, don't actually add up to much. Mark Bolland, who was the press officer for Prince Charles in 2005, outside of the role, said the royals do a very good job of working for 3 days a week, 5 months of the year, and making it look as if they're very busy. And that's the truth. They hibernate for half the year.
Well, just very quickly, I'd say that any elected president would cut off his duties about 2 years before election day and hit the tireless campaign trail. So I think actually elected presidents tend to do far less work for the country and far more work for their electoral gain. And look across the Atlantic to see that. I mean, the President of the United States stopped about another year into his 4-year term. 3 years into his 4-year term. He just does elections for the year. No engagement from
Again today, you talk about the royal family being undemocratic, but surely the EU is more undemocratic.
There we go.
You never guessed.
Point of order here. I think we had a debate about it. Put another vote on that. Well, look, I mean, maybe we can stick with it.
I think his point was
that there was a point that there are other.
It's a much more undemocratic force, was the point he was trying to make, than the Queen who just sits there and does nothing. You say she does nothing, then what's the issue if she just sits there? I'd rather have the Queen sit there than David Beckham.
I wouldn't.
Or someone like you said famous people that we voted in.
I said
David Beckham, someone like J.R. Tolkien.
Why should President of the European Council?
Let's take the Which country is bucking the problems in Europe the best at the moment? It's Germany, which is a republic. There's no getting away from that. He keeps mentioning America. We're not opposing an American model. We never have done, and we never will. Why keep going back to America?
No, well, certainly you're not. I accept you're not proposing an American model constitutionally, but the fact of the matter is that elections still need to happen, and and America is quite a good example to tout as when elections go on for too long and too expensive and just irritating. That question is, whilst I think the European Union is undemocratic, that in itself is not an argument to keep or abolish the monarchy. Having said that, I think any love of democracy would do better to spend their time in getting rid of the monarchy, which is one of the least big issues in our constitution. There are plenty more things that any thriving democracy campaigner could, in my opinion, could campaign for that would actually help to promote social mobility and democracy and all those lovely words than replacing the head of state, which is quite popular.
Yeah,
House of Lords, European Union.
Yeah, the House of Lords is a bigger issue. We believe that it is an important issue. This is about democracy. There's not many bigger issues in the world than that. Is it something we can tackle while we're doing other things? Yes. It's part of the. We have views on other things. I think Graham, our leader, actually was at the committee Parliament committee meeting on honours last year, so we do get involved in other things, and we have a view on a written constitution. We like a written constitution. Yes, we like the House of Lords abolished. The trouble is, if you start getting involved in those arguments, you get into deep constitutional issues. We believe that the monarchy isn't just about one individual. It is about it's the very heart of this country, and how we perceive ourselves and how others perceive us going forward. Do we want to be stuck in the past, or do we want to move forward as a modern 21st century state? There have been many instances in history where supposedly unimportant things have been sorted out at strange times. The welfare state was actually, foundation was at the back end of the Second World War. Now, we had more important things to do than that. Votes for women were at the back end of the First World War. There were probably more important things to do that. We've got 651 MPs in this country. We can do more than one thing at a time. This is an easy hit. We believe that if you get rid of this, a lot of the rest will fall. Go for the pinnacle. This is the very pinnacle of a bigger issue in this country.
Just very quickly, I mean, unlike I don't care as much about rain. I don't as much as rain about it. Oh no, I do care about it. I don't care as much as Ray about how we are perceived. It doesn't really bother me. Though I do think, and perhaps we share some agreement that we should do less imposing. But that's another argument for the pub after. If you are the sort of person who, and it tends to be if you're of the chattering class, and you do care what people of other countries think about you, then I think being a monarchy does very well for us. Bearing in mind that the UN recently ranked 7 out of 10 of the most democratic, free and fair countries as monarchies, and the UN also referenced by another measure, the name of which is Gini coefficient. That monarchies make you more equal and more modern. I mean, if you care about being a modern state, then would you write, Norway, Canada, Australia? They're not archaic nations, are they? Sweden? I mean, having a monarchy.
Denmark's.
Yeah, Denmark's a monarchy.
I'll tell you all about this.
Holland. These are, I love. Norway's your favourite, isn't it? Because your wife is Norwegian.
Yeah.
But I mean, clearly, if Norway, Sweden, Canada and Australia manage to be more democratic than us, and the UN in all its wisdom deems them more equal, then clearly it's not the monarchy that's the problem. And we can solve all these social mobility issues and democracy issues, which I agree need to be solved. And we can leave the very agreeable constitutional arrangement of a monarchy at the top.
Well, yeah, I mean, Scott says he's not worried about how we're perceived around the world, but then he goes on to tell us how wonderfully the monarchy sells us abroad, which isn't the case at all, by the way. If they were selling us abroad and we were getting money in from it, we'd know about it, believe me. The Palace PR machine wouldn't miss a trick. If they can put Charles on country file, they would claim that. How are we perceived abroad? And he mentions the Commonwealth. Well, the Commonwealth is becoming an increasingly irrelevant institution. The countries we need to be dealing with in the world are the Indians, the Chinas, the Brazils, the up-and-coming producers in this world that we need to interface with. I mean, engineering, so I'm all about this, we need to be interfacing. Not Tuvalu, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and Tonga. Frankly, they're maybe very nice places, but they're irrelevant. There is no country in the Commonwealth, I'm including South Africa or even Australia now, we do major business with. It doesn't happen. Scott mentions Norway. I know a lot about Norway. I lived there for many years. I speak Norwegian fluently. Norway typifies a lot of those Scandinavian countries. Sweden and Denmark, they have a very big income and a very small population. Now, Norway was a very poor country in the 50s. What you find with very rich countries like Norway is they don't question anything. That's why the roads, if you ever drive in Norway, it's a constant source of amusement for my wife and I. It's one of the richest countries in Europe, and the roads are a disgrace. Nobody dare question it. It's a comfy, nice situation. Monarchies do not provide the stability. They exist in stable countries. And Saudi Arabia is exactly the same. Saudi Arabia is a monarchy. Most of the kids in Saudi Arabia are so rich they never have to work. They're driving around in McLaren MP4s. They don't question the monarchy. It's there, and they've got a very nice time of it. You find people question things when they're in trouble.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's often brought up that the royals do a lot of work for charity, and I was just going to ask Ray, in a republic, would the royals be free to carry on doing their charity work? And if they decided not to, what would that say about them?
Well, it's debatable what they do for charity. I mean, I think their value to charity is in their celebrity status. I mean, do they provide work for the charities, or do the charities insist? Do they basically the charities give them a reason for being? I would say the latter. They have to do something. Now, their value to charity is in their celebrity status. There's no reason why they couldn't continue doing all that wonderful charity work when the monarchy goes. You know, the other thing is, they're not doing it for free. We're paying for it. You know, I mean, is Princess Anne patron of 150 charities? Now, divide that by the number of years and days in the year. I mean, how much is she doing for each of these shows? Other than sitting at very expensive dinners with other very rich people buying raffle tickets. I don't think that is real charity work. There are plenty of celebrities out there who can cut ribbons.
Well, I mean, we can debate what they do for charity. I mean, I know I did the Duke of Edinburgh's award, and I know people who've been really helped out by the Prince's Trust, who have met members of the royal family through it. I mean, whatever role they have, I mean, I think it is more than celebrity based, and I think that's an important part, and I think it's good that they bring all these things because of their celebrity status. But they do many other things, and look, I mean, that's what a head of state does. Under your model, that's what the head of state does. They get invited to things to help out, to go out and meet people, and whether it was a president or whether it's the royals. Because of the model that we're both proposing of what a head of state should look like, those sort of things would still happen.
So, Scott, you think in a republic that the royal family wouldn't be doing all the charity work and be patrons of
I
everything?
mean, obviously, providing...
The head of state would be too busy doing what they have to do this. The reason we've got 15 members of the royal family who have to fill their time.
That's a blessing.
They have to fill their time.
They don't fill their time. They get invited to places.
And they can carry on doing that in a republic then?
So if we could take a final few number of questions to begin towards the end, and then if you could each take 5 minutes, you could sort of somewhat possibly answer the questions if you need to. Come for a question there.